My name is Abhishek Balaji. I'm a product manager at Zoom. Before we get started, I just want to get to know all of you a little better. How many of you here are current Zoom customers? Fantastic. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your loyalty. And thank you for coming out. How many of you, even current customers, are considering or evaluating any portion of your communication stack today? Maybe seeing areas of improvement or constantly thinking about things. Perfect. So again, thank you. You're at the right place. Welcome. And I do want to start off by saying, from Zoom, here's a heartfelt thank you to all of you. Thank you to our customers, to our partners, to our prospective customers, and essentially really the community, right? If it weren't for folks like yourself, we wouldn't be here today to share our story and share what we have ahead of us. So thank you. Let's give it up for you guys. Zoom started in 2011 with a mission to make video communication frictionless. And it was started by a visionary leader named Eric Yuan, who spent his entire career dedicating to making video communication better and more robust. And as we started with just a couple of people hacking together a product, we were quickly backed by Sequoia Capital, Emergence Capital, and many other experienced campaigners. And through this journey, we've gone from a couple of people hacking together a product to more than a 1,500-person company. And in that journey, we've experienced some phenomenal user growth and revenue growth. But I think what's most important is that we've been able to put a smile on every customer's face every single day. That has really been what we drive and what we strive for to make our vision of making video communication frictionless. At Zoom, when we started, we launched our Zoom Meetings product. What we wanted to solve for was your ability to have one-on-one meetings as well as group meetings. And we wanted to make sure that we built a robust and scalable architecture that could support cloud video communications. Now, the problem isn't solved, and we haven't even scratched the surface by it by any means. But what we built allowed us to build a platform in the future. We started off with meetings, as I mentioned, and that solved for critical use cases. You didn't have to go, can you see my video properly? Can you hear me? I'm sharing my screen, can you see it now? You didn't have to ask any of those questions, it just worked. And then as we started having customers try this product, we recognized the need for instant messaging. And that's where we came out with our chat product to support that small group communication. But we took the same platform and we built out video webinars to empower your organizations to communicate broadly and massively to the entire world through the same video and audio quality that was powering meetings. So at this point, we had kind of become a disruptor in the video communications field. We were quirky, we were good, we were the cool kid in the town, but we wanted to take that and bring it to the next level. How many of you here manage hardware of any kind, or interact with hardware, manage it? Yeah, pretty much all of us. It's a lot of money that we spend on it. One hardware doesn't always talk to the other. Hardware becomes a component that we have to maintain. A lot of complications come with it, which is why we built our hardware-agnostic conferencing room solution, Zoom Rooms, backed by the same architecture and the same platform that was powering meetings, chat, and webinars. With Zoom Rooms, we also recognize that you may have your own hardware. A lot of you mentioned that you did have your own hardware systems. That's why we want to meet you where you are with conference room connectors. You can use your existing hardware and still experience the same video and audio quality that you saw in meetings and webinars. And lastly, but definitely not the least, we welcomed a new member to our family, Zoom Phone. Zoom Phone is really exciting. All you road warriors, sales folks, the people who need to get on a phone call, Zoom Phone is your cloud-based solution to do that. Phenomenal audio quality backed by the same infrastructure that's supporting all of the other Zoom products. Zoom Phone is very exciting. It's available today, and we're super pumped for it. And throughout this journey, we also made sure to open up our platform. We partnered with software and hardware vendors, we integrated with third-party developers, we opened up our own platform for third-party integrations. And in this entire journey, we went from being a single product to an entire platform, a unified communications platform. And what that gave us is the ability to empower you as organizations to have an ecosystem of products and services that can solve your communication needs. Let's hear a little more about this ecosystem from one of our customers, Medallia.
My name is Ashwin Balal. I'm CIO at Medallia. Medallia is an enterprise SaaS company, and it deals with customer experience management software. We couldn't find a better partner than Zoom. I believe that strongly that a great user experience is what drives productivity in an enterprise.
My name's Hamilton Gordon. I'm the head of collaboration services here at Medallia. I also do global system design and help implement Zoom. Before, we had a really fragmented conferencing ecosystem where we had teams that preferred one platform over another. It led to a lot of confusion, people not being able to adopt or learn their products well enough.
We were in a facility in Palo Alto, and then we moved to San Mateo. And so it gave the IT organization a unique opportunity to build things from the ground up so that we could look at simplicity in terms of the architecture, the design, the supportability.
We actually use Zoom's professional service organization. They did a fantastic job.
We have offices in New York, London, Buenos Aires. So in all about close to 150 Zoom rooms, all done within a month.
Using Zoom's great team over there who helped coordinate globally to get us all in place in 3 different global regions, which are notoriously difficult to do business in. The whole point of consolidating kind of under one platform is for the ease of use for our end users. It actually allows you to overcome some of the, lost in translation mishaps that can happen when you're using a third-party integrator.
Since most of our employees use the train here in San Mateo, they could take the call from the video on their iPhone and then transfer it over to the Zoom room as they came into the office. And that experience was seamless, and that's where technology sometimes shines.
Zoom's just faster. When our entire user community is asking when can we put more Zoom rooms in, that's something that I can't speak highly enough about. Zoom is so far ahead of anyone else that I know of right now. Zoom is thinking about the whole ecosystem and how to make it easier. We're having a really, really great experience right now. The sky's the limit. I think we've only scratched the surface here.
I love that narrative. It talks a lot about how our ecosystem shines in empowering customers to achieve more. Medallia is an awesome company. They've had great growth, and we'll be hearing more from Medallia very soon. So we've talked about this product that was built out. We made it into a platform. We opened it up to software, hardware vendors, third-party integrations. So what's next? Where are we really going? What's our focus areas? Well, at Oktane, we've heard a lot about trust. We've heard a lot about what does trust mean? How do we build trust? And at Zoom, when we ask our customers, why do you trust us? One of the things they mention to us is phenomenal video and audio quality that continues to evolve and become better. That's what we want to do, number one. We want to make sure we double down on the quality of experience and provide an unparalleled service when it comes to video communications. But we also heard, Medallia talk about this, and as Zoom, we've grown from a small organization to a large organization. And a lot of you here might also be going through the same transformation. That's why we want to make it easy for you to manage, deploy, and essentially engage with Zoom at scale. As you grow, we want to help support that growth from a communication standpoint. And finally, we want to take the really awesome technology that we've built and bring it to the workspace. Whether that be conference rooms or cafeterias or even hallways, we want to empower you to digitally transform those spaces. Let's dive a little more into what it means to manage Zoom and how that could be made very easy. At the highest level, we have robust reporting and dashboarding. What that allows you to do as admins or as business leaders is to look into how is Zoom adopted? What are the number of meeting minutes? Are people using the licenses in the way they should be using it? Or even what are some of the issues and how could we triage them quickly? This gives you insights, but also it gives you ability to prove the ROI of Zoom. Now, at Okta, we've heard a lot about the entire lifecycle management. And at Zoom, we play to that as well. It starts with authentication and provisioning. Now, we'll talk a little more about that in just a minute. But with robust authentication and provisioning services that is built natively as well as through third-party integrators like Okta, we have the ability to make sure that you have a secure and sound system as your employees are organizing and engaging with Zoom meetings. But it's not just that. Acquiring Zoom licenses can be confusing. There's a lot of different licenses. There's add-ons like webinars. Some groups of your employees might need certain flavors of Zoom. We've got all of that covered through click-based experiences where you can just drag, drop, click a few things and manage all of this seamlessly. And finally, we know that your user profile information could be living in multiple different areas. That could be Okta, that could be other places. And we want to help you bring that information to Zoom seamlessly through basic as well as custom SAML mapping. And we'll talk a little more about that as well. So speaking of Okta and what is it that Zoom is doing to help with Okta, let's talk about our integrations. It starts at the highest level of an SSO integration. So with single sign-on, your employees can now use the sign-in with Okta flow that they've been extremely comfortable and used to as they're engaging with Zoom. So every single step, they don't have to log in, and that significantly reduces that barrier to communication. But we didn't stop there. We also built a SCIM-based integration. SCIM helps support user provisioning and deprovisioning, and not just can you bring information and attributes in Okta to Zoom, but you can also get the same visibility in the record in both Okta and Zoom. Why is that important? Because wherever you are, whether you're in Okta managing different attributes or you're in Zoom looking at our reporting and dashboarding, you can have the same information available, accessible to you. Now, we've talked a lot about what it means to have a video communication platform, what does that look like? And we've also looked at how Zoom integrates with Okta. But what is all of this SSO, SCIM, why is it important? I want to take a minute to share that with you because we're at Oktane, and what we're hearing a lot on single sign-on, authentication, user provisioning, deprovisioning, and some of you here might be admins for a long time, and some of you might be working with Okta for the first few times. But it's always good to remind yourselves why this is important. Single sign-on is critical to your employees' user experience. With frictionless login, you get rid of the barriers to communication, and your employees can now go right into the meetings or whatever other product they're interacting with through Zoom. It also means, as Zoom or Medallia and other organizations have scaled in history, as you in your organization scale, you're also going to find compliance and security requirements that come through. Single sign-on from our experience has helped satisfy a lot of those compliance and security requirements as well. Let's talk about SCIM, or user provisioning and deprovisioning. It is absolutely paramount to your company's growth journey. What do we mean by that? As you go from a couple of engineers hacking together a product to 1,500 to 50,000 people, provisioning and deprovisioning at scale helps you save a lot of time. And with that, you can now focus your energy on other matters that need more of your attention as you're scaling. So great, we care about SSO, we care about SCIM, but what's next in the Zoom and Okta integration? Well, we want to do better management for groups. We want to help you manage group level settings better. What that means is enhancing actual group provisioning and making sure that you can bring more attributes that are group related from Okta to Zoom. But more than that, we also want to enhance what we do with custom attribute mapping so that you don't have to use just what's provided out of the box from Zoom. This will be coming out very soon, and a lot more as well. So let's do a quick recap. We've talked a little bit about our unified video communication platform. We talked about who was Zoom, how did we get to where we are. And we've also heard on how do we work with Okta to do single sign-on, to do user provisioning and deprovisioning. And recall that earlier we also heard from Ashwin and Hamilton from Medallia, who talked about their journey and what they have experienced using Zoom as well as scaling for growth. Well, let's find out how they actually went about doing this. Please join me in inviting Sam Bryson, from Global IT Manager from Medallia.
Hello.
Great to see you, Sam.
Thank you.
Sam, first of all, thank you for coming out and being part of our entire community. It's awesome to have Medallia with us. And I have a couple of questions planned for you, but before we get started, I have something to ask you. What happened from there to here?
Well, the first thing I have to say actually is that my wife absolutely hates this, so I'm going to have to go back to that as soon as this conference is over. Really, I'm not saying IT people are inherently sort of, somewhat lazy in the fact that I don't actually like shaving, but I figured I'm coming back to San Francisco. I want to blend in with the natives a little bit, try the whole hipster disguise, see if I can get away with it.
I think you pass. Well, let's start off with, just could you share a little bit more, Sam, about yourself, about Medallia? And we heard from Ashwin and Hamilton on all the great things you're doing, but we'd love to hear from you as well.
Okay, sure. Let me see that real quick. Okay, hi, my name is Sam. Smile at audience. No, okay. My name is Sam Bryson. Again, I'm an IT manager at Medallia. I've been there for about 5 years now, and we rolled out Zoom, I think about 3.5 years ago. When I started at Medallia, we were about 250 employees, so yay, ground floor. And we are currently sitting at 1,300 employees, not to mention a couple hundred contractors, partners, that kind of setup as well. So when we talk a little bit about, Medallia has grown, obviously. We talk a little bit about Zoom and how they integrated with us. We talk about that ecosystem a little bit. And for Medallia, what we really looked at is sort of looking at it helicopter, real high level, right? Like, how do you have 1,000 people on a video call, right? How do you do webinars? How do you do conference rooms and new offices and all that sort of thing, but also looking at it on the sort of the nitpicky level, right? The little details. Right. We probably tried out 30 or 40 different USB cameras. We tried out different speaker systems and televisions and so forth. And when we looked at that whole ecosystem, we really liked the idea about partnering with Zoom, right? And really having a company that was willing to listen to our feedback and to take our feedback and help make the product better was kind of that journey together, right? I mean, really that sort of like, okay, let's look at video collaboration as a whole, not just here's another web app, right? Or here's another conferencing solution, or here's another telephone number to dial with a 10-digit code and a pass, all that stuff.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I can definitely attest to that. We've had a great partnership, and it's been great to see both of our companies grow together. Mm-hmm. Right? So I would like to understand. Yeah.
Try not to sing like We Are the World right now, but yeah, cool.
Sure. I would like to understand a little more about what you think on single sign-on, skim user provisioning, deprovisioning. We talked about that here. We've been talking about that over this week. How do you use it in Medallia? How has it made your job easier as an IT manager?
Sure. Well, we actually had Okta when I first started at Medallia, and it was kind of funny because we used it sort of as an Active Directory password manager tool.
No way.
I think we had like 2 SWA apps installed, and I'm not really sure anybody used them. And over the course of the, as we were going to grow, we were starting to hire 10, 15, 20 people a week. We needed to rebuild our infrastructure. So when we rebuilt Active Directory, about the same time, HR came in. We started the whole lifecycle management process. We started moving all of our applications over. We're a G Suite customer, so we put over Google, Salesforce, all of our tools. And I was doing a session here yesterday, and I remember thinking to myself that I haven't created a Google account in 4 years, right? Because of Okta and the lifecycle management and APIs and so forth. One of the things that I liked about Zoom, right, is well, actually, before I get to that, one of the things I really liked about Okta so much was that, we really sort of embedded it into the company workflow. And because all of our applications are in Okta, right, every time we looked at a new vendor, we looked at a new partner or something, the first question that we always ask is, does it integrate with Okta? Right?
Yeah.
Does it have SSO, not just SWA? Does it have full SAML capabilities? Does it have provisioning, deprovisioning, and so forth? So we signed up with Zoom, and we were rolling out the product. We decided, okay, we're going to roll out I like to say the software side of it first. We're going to roll out the desktop and mobile applications. We're going to get our users trained on that. This was just before we moved campuses. So it was really just like, okay, let's roll them out. And again, you had this Zoom had the Okta integration, and you kind of take it for granted, but you forget those little things like I did not have to create 1,000 user accounts. I didn't have to do it manually, number one. Number two, I didn't have to figure out some kind of CSV formatting issue with all these attributes or anything. It was really just go to Okta, add the app, toss in the credentials, add to group, okay, done, right? Provision everybody. But just recently what happened with your new SCIM integration, I remember actually talking to our customer success rep going, I really love the fact that I don't have to create user accounts. But we do have turnover, right? It's kind of the reality, right? People leave the company, contractors come and go, employees come and go, and it was terrible because we'd have to every month go in and be like, okay, here's my list of 20 or so deactivated employees and 30 contractors, and let me cancel those out. So I said, you guys do provisioning really well. Could you also do deprovisioning? It would kind of help us out. Mm-hmm. Sure enough, about a month or so later, Zoom says, yep, hey, here's SCIM. Here's anything. Just you'll now see that provisioning tab inside the Okta application, so go turn on the provisioning tab. We sat with the engineer, we turned on the beta, we got it all going, and now that's one less thing we have to do.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, and the feedback we hear from customers like you has really helped us make better products, right? Not just in this capacity, but in general. You talked a little bit about rolling out Zoom. I just wanted to tap into that. If you could share with our audience just what it means to roll out Zoom, how did you go about that as an organization, especially since you're across different different localities, right?
Right. So again, we decided on software first, right? That was the easy one because worldwide, anybody could have a phone, anybody could have a computer, and that was pretty straightforward. Right. It also was a really sort of an advantage, though, because having everybody on the software side of it, on the laptop version, really sort of trained the users so that when we decided to go with the conference room solution, it was instant recognition. They go in and they look at an iPad and go, oh, this is the same UI as the desktop app. I'm done. I know how to do this. And, we had the sort of luxury or advantage of the fact that we were switching offices, and of course we were expanding and adding more offices. And so it was the idea of like, okay, well, let's start over in the new building with the new equipment. Right? Mm-hmm. And so we rolled out the Mac Minis, we rolled out the TVs and the sound bars and the microphones and all that. But we had international offices. We had Buenos Aires, we had London. New York's not international, but sometimes it feels that way. And we really decided, okay, well, we have our legacy provider, shall not be named. And we thought, okay, well, we can integrate their hardware with Zoom, but it's not really a good experience, right? We really wanted everybody to have that experience. So it was kind of a last-minute audible where we said, okay, we're building this new room or this new office. We're going to install 80 conference rooms. It'll be great. We're going to use the new signage because you've got the digital signage coming out. Oh, we're going to use the iPads on the doors for scheduling. That's going to be cool. And now you're going to have to do it worldwide. Right. So, sure, why not? But because we got to use those off-the-shelf parts, right? That was one of the big sort of saving graces, right? Not every hardware vendor, when you look at like Cisco, you look at LifeSize, you look at GoToMeeting and so forth. Anybody that's sort of an appliance-based tool, they don't necessarily ship everywhere in the world, right? With Zoom, because it was all off-the-shelf parts, we could just say go down to whatever, get whatever computer that you could get whatever microphone that you could get, and go and set it up.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, and I'm glad we were able to help you through that process because it's not easy going from one location to across the world, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
And one of the interesting key points that came out in the video where Ashwin and Hamilton were talking around, they mentioned around thinking about the whole ecosystem, right? So from Medallia's perspective, what does that mean? And how could we all embrace thinking about that whole ecosystem?
Well, if you're not familiar with Medallia, this is a plug, right? Advertisement right here, a little bit. Medallia works with customer experience, and we try to focus on the customer experience throughout the entire journey of the customer, right? So what is the customer thinking when they're doing internet research? What is the customer thinking when they first walk into a store or a hotel or whatever they're experiencing? So from Medallia's point of view, we really try to make sure that we encompass the entire journey or the entire experience of a user. And when we partnered with Zoom, we found that one, Zoom thinks very much in the same mindset, right? It's not just about, did I have a successful call, right? But how easy was it to have that call? Was it easy for everybody in that call? Was every aspect of the webinar, the video, the meeting successful? And is it successful everywhere? Is it successful, whatever we do? So when we looked at the whole kind of ecosystem, we really liked the idea that Zoom was able to really answer the question of when. Right? When would this new feature come out? How are we going to do this new feature? Not if we could do it. And it wasn't a question of like, oh, that would be sort of nice. Maybe we could consider it. It was just like, okay, let's figure out how to do it. Right. And it really all became sort of about the how we do something. So when we look at an ecosystem together, right, sort of like as a partnership, it's really about taking on those challenges and being able to think about what can we accomplish.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that resonates very well with how we think at Zoom. And I don't have this question planned, but I did want to ask you from what you were mentioning. In thinking about the whole ecosystem, how do you embrace Okta's lifecycle management at Medallia? And could you share a little bit about that?
Well, I think it goes back to the idea of really sort of adopting, it's not really adopting a philosophy, but adopting a best practice, right, and sort of a best guide. When I look at, again, as I mentioned earlier, now we've gotten to the point today where we consider vendors that don't have Okta integration, but it's a check against them. Right? When we look at new vendors and new services, we always check, do you have an Okta integration? And it really kind of helps our end users, right? Because I even get feedback from them. Our HR team recently rolled out a new service and it didn't have Okta. So I'm getting IT tickets going like, why isn't this an Okta yet? Where's the button? So it really, really makes it super easy for them. It kind of trains your end users to really be like, okay, single sign on everything. Let's go get into it. It makes adoption a lot faster. It makes adoption a lot quicker. It makes rollout instructions. Even if you have to write the email that says, hey, we have this new tool, go to Okta. Right. It makes it super easy. So when we look at Okta, I guess, as a partner and as a part of the process, part of the ecosystem, it really is that sort of foundational bedrock. Right. Not everything that we do is based off of Okta, but security compliance based off of Okta, single sign-on based off of Okta, lifecycle management based on Okta, end user experience, right? Even new hires coming in, the first thing they see, here's our tools, here's our collaboration suite, here's my HR benefits. It's all based on Okta.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, definitely, I think
they're kind of like the super glue, right? They sort of hold everything together.
The underlying bedrock, I think that you said, that's pretty much it, right? Yeah, fantastic. One of the questions I had for you was regarding how kind of you have progressed in your own career, right? Did a little bit of digging and I found out that you were working at Google, at Microsoft, at Apple, managing IT infrastructures for these companies. And now you're helping Medallia scale to a new level. So from your experience over time, what has changed about managing IT infrastructures and where do you really see all of this going?
I always chuckle about that actually because even when I looked at my own LinkedIn profile, to clarify, I worked at Google, I worked for Apple, and I got bought by Microsoft, right? Because only in the Silicon Valley is that a reality. Really changing over time, I think, in terms of infrastructure, it's really, it sounds kind of cliche. We sort of take it for granted, right? But we used to have Active Directory. Active Directory is 20 years old. You know, a lot of companies, especially scrappy sort of startups, are like, oh, Linux LDAP, let's go get those engineers in, right? I've even used other single sign-on providers, and it wasn't really until Okta sort of came along with Universal Directory, right? When they really talked about this idea that, you know, we're taking the same concepts, but we're fundamentally rebuilding them from the ground up, right? And I think that's really kind of helpful. And, you know, over the course of my IT career, right, one of the things I kind of like about being in IT, right, maybe some of you relate to this idea that IT is the only profession in the world where 20 years of experience means nothing. Right? It's only what did you do in the last 4 years? And even more so, that's even getting smaller and smaller. It's like, what did you do yesterday? But for me, I look at the consumerization of IT, right? When we talk about the iPhone and the launch of the iPhone and really thinking about this challenge of it's not what we might get around to in a couple of years, or, well, we could consider that, that's sort of cool. Now, everybody looks at what they did and they kind of go, there's no limit to whatever pipe dream we want to try, right? You know, I look at just everything that happened and everything that enabled and where we are today. I mean, if you look back 15 years ago, I don't think anybody would consider saying, oh, I'm not going to touch email, right? This other company is going to run email for me. And nobody would have considered that 15 years ago. Right? Now it's like, absolutely. Every company is trying as hard as they can to not run on-premise servers.
Right. And in your experience of working with multiple different cloud SaaS applications and then now working with Zoom, how has that kind of played with in terms of your background, in terms of how you see the industry growing? Where do you think Zoom fits in that picture?
I really like sort of Zoom's idea, philosophy behind making great customer experience, employee experience, user experience. But I also sort of, I mean, if I'm going to wax philosophical for a moment, you know, I see that further consumerization, right? You know, right now, even in Medallia, we started off with Zoom just on the software side. And then when we got to the conference rooms, we happened to be a predominantly Apple shop, so we used Jamf. We got Mac Minis to drive the Zoom rooms. But we still had a bunch of components, right? We had, mics, we had Logitech cameras, we had iPads, we had different iPad stands, all those kind of different components. And we actually, as much as you love the video with that really awesome campus, we just got rid of that campus. It's now property of Snowflake. They took over. We've shifted our philosophy a little bit in the Bay Area. So now we have 3 smaller campuses around the Bay Area. And we got this opportunity again to say, well, let's reevaluate what we're looking at. So we started looking at, they're called D10s. Right? So I don't know if anybody's familiar with them, but they're these 55-inch all-in-one soundbar, mic, camera, PC whiteboards, right? Because we've had sort of a long-standing request for digital whiteboards, and we were kind of looking at the Jamboards for a little bit, but Jamboards from Google and Zoom didn't really mesh. So now we've got these cool D10s, and we said, okay, let's try it again. Let's just throw them in there. So we got the new offices in the Bay Area. We got all these new D10s. So far, they're working out pretty good.
Right.
Got a couple little hiccups. And, you know, I like to envision the future when we look at these kind of things and we see things like Samsung's new phones, right? You know, we've got a foldable tablet display here. We've got three cameras on the front, 2 cameras on the back, you know, infrared cameras and all that kind of stuff. Bluetooth and 5G coming out, right? You know, I fully expect within 3 or 4 years, we won't even have, instead of BYOD, it'll be BYO Zoom Room. Right? People will just walk in with a Bluetooth mic and speaker and a tablet, or it might even be built into the tablet and just be like, okay, let me unfold this. There's my Zoom room. Let's go. Let's have a conference. And, you know, we have AirPlay and all these other wireless technologies and stuff. And so I just, it's kind of interesting to think again back to the idea that there really is no, I don't feel like there really is a limit to what people can do with these kind of technologies.
Yeah, in Hamilton's words, the sky is the limit.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool, fantastic. Thank you so much, Sam,
Thank
for coming out and sharing your thoughts with us. It was an absolute pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This way.
So to wrap up, I think we've had 45 minutes to share with you guys about who we are at Zoom, what is it that we bring to the table, and essentially a little bit about our history and our journey. We will still be around in the conference. We'll be at our booth at G8, and also I'll be hanging around after this presentation if you have any questions for me. But thank you very much for coming out again. Thank you for your support and for your loyalty. Go Zoomies. Thank you.